What does inner peace have to do with paying bills? Find out today on Hebrew Vocab Boost. Shalom, and welcome to the very first Hebrew Vocab Boost. I'm Sapir, and every Sunday I'll be bringing you a bunch of words that are all based on the same shoresh, or root. My hope is that by learning these words together, you will remember them more easily and recognize them when you hear them or read them. So today's shoresh is Shin-Lamed-Mem. And I want to first say that when you are looking at a shoresh, it can look like this with dots between each letter, or like this with dashes between each letter, or like this with a double quote mark between the last and the second to last letters. But they never look like 3 or 4 letters in a row like this, because then it would look like a word. Now, this one is obviously not a word because I have a regular mem in the final position. But if you see letters without punctuation, then they are words, not shorashim or acronyms or anything like that. And speaking of the final mem, I do usually see shorashim written like this. If the final letter of the shoresh has a final form, then they write that letter with the final form. This is how the Academia writes it, and how Pealim.com writes it, and a lot of other sources. But I've also seen shorashim written with a regular letter in the final position. It's just my preference. You will see it both ways. All right, let's get to it. Shin-Lamed-Mem. Why did I choose this root for my first video? Mostly because it is the basis of the first word that almost every Hebrew learner learns. Shalom. So it is really common for roots in Hebrew to have multiple, completely unrelated meanings. And at first glance, it looks like that is going on with Shin-Lamed-Mem. There are words related to peace, words related to paying, and words related to completeness. And in fact, completeness is the underlying meaning that includes both peace and paying. So, if you feel at peace, you might also say that you feel whole or complete, having all your parts, and you are unbroken. And when we pay for something, especially in biblical times, we are kind of completing a circle of something happened to us, and we are repaying that with another transaction. So completeness is the glue that binds all of these words that are based on this shoresh. So most people know of shalom as meaning peace, well-being. It can be used as a greeting, kind of like aloha in Hawaiian. And all of these meanings are actually attested in the Tanakh. So let's take a look at these meanings one by one. The meaning of peace is almost always pronounced shalom, and it's sometimes written with the vav and sometimes without the vav. And this can mean peace in the sense of not having war between nations, or it can be family peace, or it can be inner peace, like well-being. In my Jewish Publication Society version of the Tanakh, I see it translated as peace, unharmed, safe, secure, good fortune, prosperity, and even friendship. And it is also used to mean the actual allies, friends, or confederates. And these allies, friends, or confederates are usually in the plural or with a personal ending, such as shlomi, meaning my ally, or shlomecha, meaning your allies. And another word that is very closely related to this peaceful meaning is lehashlim, which is translated usually as came to terms with, in the sense of that they came to an agreement, or turning enemies into allies. And in modern Hebrew, we have shalom with all of these meanings of peace. And nowadays, it is always spelled with the vav. And a phrase we see a lot is Heskem Shalom, which means peace treaty. And another phrase, well, it's a phrase in English, but just a single word in Hebrew, is Leshalom or Beshalom, which basically means in peace. And we see this a lot in the Traveler's Prayer. And then we have the phrase Shlom Bayit, which means family peace, or literally peace of the house. And when I say Shlom Bayit, you don't hear the ah of shalom. And it's not because I'm saying it fast. This is a construct smichut form. And so the vowel is reduced to a schwa instead of being a kamatz like it is in shalom. So shalom, shlom bayit. A meaning closely related to peace is well-being, as in somebody's inner peace. In the Tanakh, it usually sounds like shalom, or the construct form shlom, or some inflected version such as shlomam, shlomecha, and shlamchon. And we can see that we have a vowel change in that one from shlo to shla. And this gets translated in the JPS version as well-being, welfare, unwearied, prosperity, happiness, comfort, good fortune, goodwill, integrity, how someone was faring, and even how a war was going. In Isaiah 45:7, it's translated as wheel. Weal. And yes, I had to look that word up in the dictionary. My Webster's dictionary has it as a sound, happy, or prosperous state. And dictionary.com has it as well being, prosperity, or happiness. So that makes sense. And a major usage of this root as well being is when talking about an offering or a sacrifice of well being. All different kinds of sacrifices were laid out in Leviticus and Numbers. A sacrifice of well-being seems to have been an offering to the Lord with no request going along with it, and no infraction being paid for. So kind of like saying, things are good, and I know that you, Lord, are responsible. So take this gift. And one thing to notice is that whenever we are talking about offering or sacrifice of well-being, there is no vav or o sound in the word. And they seem to always be in the plural and sometimes with a personal ending. We have to be careful with the vowels, though. With the uninflected form and the third person singular, so his sacrifice of well-being, there is a schwa under the shin and a kametz under the lamed. And the others, such as the construct form that goes with the children of Israel, as well as the second and third person plural forms. So your sacrifice of well-being and their sacrifice of well-being have a different vowel pattern. There is a patach under the shin and a schwa under the lamed. So if I'm reading these words on the screen with my accent, I would say shlamim, shlamecha, shalmehem, shlamav, and shalmei ne Yisrael. And this meaning has survived into modern Hebrew, and it is very often used to ask and or answer the question of how someone is. So you use the question word ma, which means what, and then the inflected form of shalom. These are the second and third person declensions, which make most sense with a question. And then these are the first person declensions to say, I am well, or we are well, or whatever. And you can use the construct form with a name. So, like, Mashlom Rivka, to ask, how is Rivka? Remember that the construct form has a schwa under the shin. So it's not Ma Shalom Rivka, it's Ma Shlom Rivka. And also related to well-being is the meaning of greeting. And in the Tanakh, we see a lot of direct quotations of people greeting each other, where one says "Hashalom" and the other answers "Shalom." I believe that this "ha" prefix is the prefix version of the word "ha'im" that introduces a question. It always comes on the question form that my Tanakh translates as, are you well? Or is he well? It's always a question. And then the answer is always shalom without the ha prefix. And it is translated usually as yes, he is, or simply yes. And then, when speaking of a dialogue such as this, to say that someone greeted someone, they use a form of the verb lish'ol, which means to ask, and then the preposition le, and then the person attached onto the name of the person, or it could be lo if it's just going to be a pronoun, and then le shalom. So, for example, this is 1 Samuel 30:21, and the JPS translates this verse as, when David reached the 200 men who were too faint to follow David and who had been left at the Wadi Besor, they came out to welcome David and the troops with him. David came forward with the troops and greeted them. So we see at the end, Vayish'al lahem shalom. Vayish'al means and he asked. Lahem is the preposition le with the hem ending, which means them. So it's like to them or for them. Prepositions are a little bit murky. And then le shalom, which is that same preposition and then with the meaning of well-being. So it gets translated, and he greeted them. As far as I know, this expression, this particular expression, lish'ol le mishahu le shalom, is no longer used in modern Hebrew. But we can say shalom as a greeting, and saying ma shlomcha or ma shlomech is kind of used as a general greeting, the way we say, hey, how are you doing? And there's an expression that I didn't find anywhere in my Tanakh that is limsor drishat shalom, which generally means to send regards. And this expression can be shortened to an acronym DASH, the Dalid for drishat and the Shin for shalom. And then lehipared means to be separated, and lehipared leshalom can be translated as to say goodbye, and it's more literally to be separated in peace. And then in the Tanakh, there is also the meaning of payment, and we see various forms of the PL verb leshalem translated as repay, make restitution, requite, recompense, deal as in dealing vengeance, mete out, vindication, reward, and punish. Reward as a verb, to reward somebody and punish. So here these three words at the top are leshalem, that's the infinitive form of the verb to pay. Shalem leshalem, like some kind of an emphatic form of paying a payment. And the last one is shilumim, which is the noun in the plural form, so payments of some kind. And these are all in the sense of payback for some previous action, whether good or bad. I'll accept one. I did find one instance where it was used for paying a debt. And in modern times, leshalem can be used for all kinds of payment. Lehishtalem is the hitpael version, and it means to be lucrative or to be worthwhile, as in that something will pay you back for your efforts. And there's the word tashlum, which means like a payment or a fee or maybe a service charge. And with regards to wholeness, in the Tanakh, we have the adjective shalem, which is translated as whole, fulfilling, as in fulfilling a vow, entire, or full. We often see the phrase belev shalem or belevav shalem, which means wholehearted. And this is usually having to do with someone having complete devotion to the Lord. We have 3 different translations of Even Shlema, which is really interesting to me. Even means stone, and so in one translation, an Even Shlema is translated as an unhewn stone, as in it has not been cut at all. It is in its complete form. And in another, it specifically says in my version, in my bilingual version, that this is a stone that was cut specifically at the quarry and nowhere else. And in a few instances, an Even Shlema is an honest or a completely honest stone. And in these instances, they're talking about a weighing stone. So it's a stone that is the full weight that it should be. So imagine those old style scales where you've got a stone on one side and whatever it is that you're selling on the other side. That stone is honest or complete if it's weighing exactly what it should be weighing. And there's another phrase, Shlumei-Emunei Yisrael. And emunah means faith. And this is translated as the faithful of Israel, as in the faithful people, those who are full of faith. Verb-wise, we have what appears to be a pa'al verb, lishlom, meaning to be completed or to be ended. Leshalem is used for fulfilling a vow or performing whatever you have already previously vowed to do. And lehashlim is to keep someone whole or to bring someone to an end. And in modern times, there are many words with the meaning of completion. Lehashlim in modern times means to complete. I see it all the time in my kids' workbooks where it says like fill in the blanks, complete this sentence, or also to fulfill a goal. And lehishalem is the nif'al verb, and it means to be completed. And shalem is an adjective that just means complete or whole. Misparim shlemim are whole numbers or integers. Shana shlema is a whole year, as in the full 12 months, not necessarily a calendar year. Shlemim is how they refer to regular verbs, because irregular verbs usually have a letter that drops out somewhere, and the shlemim all have all of their letters in all of the forms, and so they are complete. And if something is complete, it might be mushlam or perfect. Shlemut is a noun meaning completeness, wholeness. Hishtalmut is continuing education or professional education. So it's a class or classes that complete or perfect one's knowledge in a field. Hashlama can be the act of completing something, or in grammar, it can be a complement, which if you don't know what that is, you're going to have to look it up because I don't have time to explain it here. So that's it for today. Now you know most of the words based on the root Shin-Lamed-Mem in the Tanakh and in modern Hebrew. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave it in the comments and I will do my best to respond. If you want to see more about the words from this shoresh, check out my TikTok channel, Hebrew Word of the Day with Sapir. Each day this week, I will post a video on one of the words, including a little bit more about usage and the grammar surrounding the word. Hit like if you enjoyed this video and subscribe and press the notification bell if you want to see more. Tuesdays, I upload grammar videos, and Thursdays, I upload a book review. So check those out or just wait for next Sunday's vocabulary video, which will be on the shoresh Yod Vav Mem. Lehitraot b'pa'am haba'ah. See you next time.